Welcome back to episode 82 of the ATD Baseball Podcast. If you can't tell, I am decked out in the City Connect stuff for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And I'm not going to lie to you, kind of feeling it a little bit. I like the shirt, I definitely like the hat, but I approve. That's the big thing here, I approve. When you look good, you play good. And when you look good, you feel good. And that's how I feel right now, baby. But we got stuff that we want to discuss today. But before we get into all of that, Kyle, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I think we need to address the elephant in the room here. You kind of touched on it a little bit. You know, the LA stuff, man. I think I will say here, seeing it up close and personal, that hat looks even better than what I was glazing it last week. And the shirt, I think it looks better than the jersey.
I agree
will
with
say
that.
that.
I can agree with
Yeah,
that. It looks good on the players, but nobody else.
I do agree. I think I'm gonna have to see a few more of these games from the Dodgers in that jersey for me to kind of get behind. It's the sprinkle look, man. I don't know what it is. Just something about it. It rubs me the wrong way. I don't
It's
I don't
supposed
get
to
it.
it's
But the shirt
supposed
looks
to
good.
represent the stars, the galaxy, Los Angeles. That's what it's. I know nobody's interpreting it like that, but it
It
does
makes
make
sense.
sense.
It makes sense.
And I'm just a world class model. Make everything look good. When you go to your local store, you can see me in one of those posters. I look just like this world class supermodel right here. Um,
I I couldn't
Thank
agree
you.
more.
Yes, and I think everyone else would agree too. Looking at this, um, topics that we want to get. Well, continue, Kyle. I didn't even, how you doing? We didn't even.
I'm doing Nah, man, it's kind of just business as usual. Obviously, things in Yankee land aren't too great right now, so we'll obviously touch on that later in the podcast. But other than that, I'm doing great. No complaints.
That's good. Yeah, same here. No complaints. Um, so we got stuff that we want to discuss. The big one, and this broke last Tuesday, so sucks. Willie Mays passed away at the age of 93. We'll touch on that right at the top because we haven't had a chance. I know, Kyle, you put out a very nice tribute video last Wednesday, but we haven't had a chance to together really talk and discuss about it. Edwin Díaz, he was the star of the show last night in Chicago, and they won the game, but nobody remembers that. I will ask the question if you think that was pine tar or not, or sticky stuff. I think it was, but you might have a different take on it. All-Star update with the ballot. I guess it's the end of round 2. Not really much change, but can the Dodgers get on their shit to get Will Smith to Texas? I mean, this is becoming ridiculous now. And then we'll finish off with the Dodgers and the Yankees. Kyle's kind of not happy right now with his team. And I got something very interesting because it has been about. Dodgers have played a full week of baseball without Mookie Betts, and I got something on that, and I think it might shock some people, but we'll see. We'll see.
Oh,
That is your little
okay.
tease right there. Starting off at the top, sad, unfortunate news Tuesday. Willie Mays passed away at the age of 93. Listen, I'm sure you guys have all seen the posts. You guys have seen all the highlights. You guys have seen every tribute video, every post. This man, for a generation of people, not just baseball fans, but American citizens, he was the face. He was the guy. Willie Mays, the say hey kid. The resume speaks for itself. MVPs, World Series, Gold Gloves, the most All-Star Game appearances in history. Ted Williams, I think, famously said that the All-Star Game was made for Willie Mays. Just sad, unfortunate news. The Giants were playing in Chicago when that story broke, and the broadcasters did a tremendous job. All the broadcasters, because there was a lot of games that were still being played when the news broke, and including the Dodgers did a great job too. Every team had almost every team had a moment of silence for him. I know the Dodgers did Friday night, so I love to see that. Um, just it was a sad day, somber day. We lost Hank Aaron 3 years ago, and after you were looking around, and it's like, man, Willie Mays is one of the only guys left from that kind of age generation, and now he's gone also, and it's sad. And listen, my grandfather died 3 years ago too, and he's not around to say this, but I will say it for him because he told me in the past. My grandpa used to go to Dodger games with his buddies. They would sneak into the LA Coliseum before they moved to Dodger Stadium. They would sneak in to see Sandy Koufax pitch. Anytime he pitched, like, we got to go see this guy. Love the Dodgers. And he told me from a very young age, and I believe it because I've heard a lot of people say it as well. For his generation, and for a lot of people in that era, that's the greatest baseball player they've ever seen. Willie Mays. That's probably the highest, mark you could ever put on a player. And it's awesome to see that the Giants and Major League Baseball honored him in the last years of his life. You still saw him you didn't see him much at the Hall of Fame, but he definitely would show up once in a while. The Giants would always bring him back on opening day or, other special events. Major League Baseball would sometimes bring him to the All-Star game or other stuff. So I love that Major League Baseball kept Willie Mays around even after his playing days. And even when, this whole generation of fans didn't see him play. The only video that we have of Willie Mays is all the stuff you see on YouTube. That's our, stuff of Willie Mays. We didn't grow up and watch him play. But tremendous loss for the game Tuesday night. Won't be another one like him. Willie Mays. That's what I got.
Yeah, I mean, there's not too much else I can go on. You hit it perfectly. You kind of described what kind of person Willie Mays was. And I will say this: the term "goat" is thrown around very loosely between all different types of generations. Obviously Babe Ruth comes up, Ted Williams, Mickey Mantle, guys like that, right? All right. As I said, term used loosely. Anyway, but when you truly look at that term and what it means, you can't help but think of Willie Mays. Willie Mays was one of those guys where he is arguably one of, if not the greatest baseball player of all time. I'm not going to go too much on his accolades. If you'd like to see it, I made a video on it last week, like Melo had said. This guy embodied everything it meant to be a baseball player. And in that generation, that's when America's pastime was like really big, and everybody who watched Willie Mays play that I've come close to has told me that, yeah, he lived up to it, he was that kind of player. But I think what's a little bit more important is the kind of person that he was. That is what I hear, right? So Willie Mays would, he obviously fought for the country. He obviously is in the game of baseball constantly. You had touched on that. The Hall of Fame brought his plaque back out. These are all things that I think really just embodies what Willie Mays was. He was a great baseball player, and I think a greater man. It obviously sucks. This is where it starts getting into like the bad sides of baseball. When you start losing these greats. But I also do, as much as we shit on Major League Baseball, they do a damn good job at remembering the players who came in the past. And that's exactly what they did for Willie Mays. Yeah, it's a terrible loss for the game of baseball. Yeah, I mean, he's one of the greatest. There's not much else you could say about him.
Yeah, and the thing that really sucked is that Major League Baseball had that baseball game in Birmingham, Alabama Thursday night, and to honor the Negro League and the Negro League players. And part of, if not the main reason why they even went back there, was because of guys like Willie Mays that played there. And it sucked that 48 hours before that game was supposed to be played, he passes away. And that sucked. But it allowed Major League Baseball to honor him the right way. Like you mentioned, they brought his plaque out to Alabama. A lot of the Giant players and Cardinal players got to see it for the first time. We got to see it last year in Cooperstown, so that was fun. Anxious and excited to see that again and all the other Willie Mays stuff that is there already in the Hall of Fame. It was a somber day. It was a somber day, and Willie Mays was one of those guys that, it felt like he was going to live forever. And listen, he's a legend, and it's the old saying that, legends never die, and it's true. But he just completely forgot about, Willie Mays is 93. Because I think up until he was still doing okay. Like he was still going to Giants games, like he was still going to other places. I don't remember the last appearance he made, but I think it was definitely a Giants game or something like that. But very cool. Very cool to see all the tributes. Very cool to see everybody honor him. And I think the first game back for the Giants is tonight. I think they open a homestand tonight, and I believe everybody is wearing number 24, and that's awesome.
Correct. Yep. I will say I think, this just goes back of Major League Baseball doing their due diligence. They are remembering the ones who came before, and the ones who are still alive, they make sure to incorporate them with a bunch of different events. And you kind of hit it with the baseball game that was played the other day. Everett Wood Field. I believe he was supposed to be in attendance. He was supposed
to be in attendance. I think they asked him to throw out the first pitch too.
That's the part that really, that's where the tearjerkers come, right? So this guy is supposed to go back to where it all started and where he paved the way for so many great baseball players that we have come to love and absolutely adore as players and as idols growing up, and without guys like Willie Mays, and obviously you could throw Jackie Robinson and Rube Foster, guys like that who started down in the Negro Leagues and then worked their way up to play where they belong. And Willie Mays kind of was one of those catalysts for that. So when you look big picture of things like that, that's where the tearjerkers come in, and then that's where it just makes the whole situation so much worse, because he was supposed to be in attendance, he was supposed to throw out the first pitch, and then, like you said, 2 days before that game took place, he passed away. I will say if you kind of want to spin any kind of positive to it, I think it brought everybody a little bit closer, baseball fans. That's one of those moments where, for me, it reminded me a lot of the 20th anniversary of 9/11 when the Yankees and Mets played. I was in attendance for that game, and it was the greatest baseball game I've ever been at. Nobody cared about what teams were playing. Everybody was there for the moment. And I feel like that's exactly what happened this past week with Willie Mays' death. Obviously, it sucks. It's a huge loss for the game of baseball and every single baseball fan. And this is one of those guys where if somebody were to ask me who is one player you'd like to see play in their prime, I feel like Willie Mays would be very high on that list. A lot of people. Yeah. Yes. So obviously, the only way I get to enjoy Willie Mays and his terrific career is, like you said, on YouTube or clips that we can see on social media. But no, the game lost a great one. Like I said, great baseball player, incredible person. That's what I got on Willie Mays.
I agree. And just to put a bow on this, one story, which is not my story. It's a story from the great Vince Scully, who, of course, passed away 2 years ago. October 2nd, 2016. That was Vince Scully's final game he ever called. with the Dodgers, and he retired that day. They were playing the Giants in San Francisco, and I don't believe Vince Scully had any idea he was even in the building that day. But I believe somewhere in like the fourth or fifth inning, the Giants did a very touching tribute where they paid their respects to Vince Scully on his final game. And, he's going back, and then he turns around because somebody has a guest to see Vince Scully. And it was Willie Mays. And you can find this clip on YouTube. Vince Scully had been calling games for almost 70 years. He has seen a lot of great baseball players, and he's seen a lot of players go off and on the field. But when he saw Willie Mays come in that door, turned into like a 10-year-old kid again. And he was so respectful. He was so nice. He introduced himself, Buck Vince Scully. And Willie Mays said, "I know who you are." And Vince Scully you can see the sparkle in his eye, like, oh my God, Willie Mays knows who I am. Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories, because Vince Scully was one of those guys that always said Willie Mays was the greatest player that he ever seen. He's in that generation who actually saw him play for the Giants, for the Mets. I'm sure, Vince Scully grew up in New York. I'm sure you got to see him a bunch of times before they came out to San Francisco when they were still in New York. But I just wanted to share that, and I hope they're somewhere up in heaven. I hope they're both having a conversation right now. But
I don't think we could have ended that segment more beautifully than you just did right there.
Yeah,
that's
rest
gorgeous.
In peace. God's the game. Willie Mays.
Yep.
Moving on. Edwin Díaz. What the hell are you doing? What are you doing? For those of you that don't know, and I was surprised how well this did on the graphic that we put out last night. That caught fire really quickly. I don't know if I was one of the first to put it. We were one of the first to put it out there, but Edwin Díaz was supposed to pitch the ninth inning. Mets were up 5-2, and obviously we know the past couple seasons, the past really 2 seasons have been kind of tough for Edwin Díaz. He had an MVP, he had a, Cy Young type season for a reliever in 2022.
Oh yeah.
He was arguably the best closer in the league, and then he represents his country in Puerto Rico in 2023, and during the celebration he gets hurt and he's out for the season. And that became a big old thing of, why are these guys going to play in some tournament that doesn't mean anything? It only lasts a week and a half to 2 weeks. Why are these guys doing this 2 weeks before the season? He's out for all of 2023. The Mets are no good. He comes back in 2024. All the Met fans are excited. Gets off to a real shaky start. So much so that he has the closer role removed from him. He's no longer coming out in the ninth inning. That's how bad it's been. And last night, I believe, was one of his, if not his first opportunity to get it back. I believe so. I'm not watching Met games every night, but I think that was one of, if not his first crack at trying to close a game again. And right as he got out there, the umpires do their manual check with all these pitchers before they come in to a game and start warming up. And I guess the second base umpire saw something that he didn't like on his hand or in his glove, got the home plate umpire involved. You got the Mets manager Mendoza coming out like, hey, what's going on? You got all the Met infielders gathering around, and then all of a sudden you see the umpire just toss him out. And immediately, you don't even have to wait for a Bob Nightingale or a Jeff Passan to tweet it. When you see something like that, they're checking for substances. You know that. And that's exactly what happened. He got thrown out for apparently having sticky stuff either on his hand or his glove. After the game, Edwin Díaz was trying to say that it was just sweat and rosin. He's been doing that all the time. But you can clearly see the umpire said, that's not rosin. That is not rosin. That's something else. And he got suspended for 10 games. It was officially, came out a little bit, about maybe 2 hours ago, that it was official. He got suspended for 10 games. Obviously, he's gonna appeal because he thinks he did nothing wrong. I think that was Roslyn. I mean, I think that was sticky stuff. But there was definitely a lot of Met fans and a lot of baseball fans saying that's just Sweat and Roslyn. But we have the picture. I don't know about that. Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, so obviously this became a huge thing in Major League Baseball just a couple years back, and then
2021.
prompted them to put all these rules in place. Yes. Um, I'm no stranger to it. Domingo Herman was caught for it. Garrett Cole was technically caught for it. These are things where
Sorry to interrupt, but there have been people ever since Walker Buehler came back. He hasn't looked that great, and many people are saying because he can't use that sticky stuff anymore.
yeah. And I mean, actually, this is something that's been a big topic in Major League Baseball the last few years, and I think Tyler Glasnow actually said it perfectly. Um, he was in an interview with somebody, I don't remember when but I do know he was with the Rays at the time, and he said, "I can guarantee that your favorite pitcher used sticky stuff." And I believe Tyler Glasnow liked to use sunscreen.
Sunscreen.
I think that was his substance
That was
of
Bauer's
choice, if
stuff
you want to
too, I
call it
think.
that. Yeah. And, this also kind of goes hand in hand with all these injuries that we're seeing. These are more things where, we're wondering why these pitchers are getting hurt all the time. Well, guess what? MLB kind of cracked down on these things, and we're kind of seeing it more and more. Shifting focus to Edwin Díaz here. I'm looking at the picture right now in front of me, and just to kind of get the look of it again, it literally looks like scabs on his hand. He looks like he has blisters all over his pitching hand, and that's what makes me believe as well that it's not just rosin. Yes, I do see there is some residue of rosin in there that you can clearly
Yeah.
see that it is, but that's not. What's those dark spots? That's not sweat, and that's not rosin either. That's where it's starting to make me think that it is some sort of substance. I don't know if it's a, quote unquote sticky stuff. I don't know what it is, but it could just be something to help get grip, obviously. And the thing is, too, is Edwin Díaz has been struggling. You touched on that, too. Ever since he's had that injury in the World Baseball Classic, he has not looked himself. And I'll be the first to say, I absolutely love Edwin Díaz. I've loved everything that he brought to Citi Field. A lot of people aren't a fan of his entrances with the trumpets and stuff, but I'm telling you one thing, I eat that shit up. I love it.
It got every non-baseball fan's attention in 2022.
It did. It did, and that's something that we're big on. And the thing with Edwin Díaz is, I feel like he's just trying to use whatever the hell he can to get back on track, and I don't blame the guy. I really don't.
Same feeling.
I don't blame him, because listen, Edwin Díaz is one of the highest paid closers of all time. He is obviously the talent's there. That's never in question. He is just not on his game right now. And if in my heart of hearts, I truly believe that he is just trying to get back on track. Now, I'm not going to say this is some top illegal stuff. Maybe it's just something as simple as a Tyler Glasnow sunscreen thing, where it maybe used to be legal, but it's no longer legal. So obviously it grabbed the attention of every single baseball fan. It's been the hot topic today and last night. I was watching this game live. And it seems like this isn't just an Edwin Díaz thing either. This is a Met thing, right? I mean, I hate to say it, but the Mets have been going through some shit this season. They really have. I mean, they're talking about trading all their top players. They're talking about completely revamping things. You have a first-year manager in there who I love. I love Carlos Mendoza. I think he's the right man for the job. But it's just everything going on with the Mets right now. It seems like it can't get worse.
Yeah, and the one thing that they have been hanging their hat on the last week and a half is that damn McDonald's mascot threw out the first pitch, and they've only lost one game ever since.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and as a Met fan, you kind of got to grab on to whatever the hell you can. It's 2024, and this team isn't even at 500 right now. They're going in. Yes, they've been.
Right now, but.
No, but yet again, we kind of touched on this. We talked about it before we started recording. This Met team is not that far off. They have been battered and beaten this entire season, and they are 2 games out of 500 right now. Not entirely sure, but I'm not sure the game situation, but I know that they're extremely close to that third wild card spot. This team, if go ahead, Melo, you have the
They're
numbers.
1 game out of the last wild card spot.
There you go. And guess what? They're traveling back home after playing at Wrigley, and they're gonna have the Subway Series. It's coming up. The Yankees are going into Citi Field, and they could lock down a wild card spot going into the month of July. After like a season where it seems like nothing can go
Right.
good for them. You know, if you get some more chemistry in this clubhouse and the leaders start stepping up, guys like Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, you start getting the role players back. You guys start getting that pitching staff back to where it's supposed to be. I feel like this Met team is not that far off. Shifting back to Edwin Diaz here, I feel for the guy. I really do. Like I said, he's one of my favorite pitchers to ever to watch in the game of baseball right now. I absolutely hate that it happened. It sucks, but yet again, in my heart of hearts, I don't think this is just sweat and rosin, and he knew that. These pitchers will go into these games no matter what inning it is, and knowing damn well what the rules are, and if like I said, if I'm right here of saying that it's not just sweat and rosin, he's going into the ninth inning here knowing that he has something else on his hand. So I get it. Obviously, he's going to appeal. It sucks, but yet again, I feel like he's doing whatever the hell he can to get back on track because he needs to. I think for this Met team to go far, I think they need a lockdown closer on top of some other things, obviously, but having a healthy, correct Edwin Diaz heading into the deeper parts of the baseball season where you're fighting for that wild card spot, you need a healthy Edwin Diaz.
Yeah, and kind of bringing the whole thing to this, kind of touching on this whole Met thing as a whole. That's not what the fans were sold this season. I think a lot of Met fans were sold on, hey, we're probably not going to be that good, but we're building something here for the future, or make a run at it in 2025. This is why you play the games, because look, we're about almost to the halfway mark of the season, and as bad as the Mets season has been, and there's been times where it looks like Pete Alonso's going to get traded at the deadline, or they should start taking calls on him. They go on, they've had a good week of baseball, week and a half, and they're right in the thick of the wild card race. And now you've got all these Met fans sucked back in, and it's like, well, now if you got my attention, you might as well go for it again. And that's the thing that I feel bad for the Met fan. Because this could be, we could be sitting here in a month and a half and the Mets are completely out of it again. Or they could be hovering around where they are right now and they're still in it. And that front office has a big decision to make at the trade deadline. Because just because they're competing, there's no set in stone that they're just going to try and add pieces. You think that would be the right decision, but they can easily say, even if we get in, this team's not going anywhere. Or even if we do something, we don't believe this team is good enough to get to at least the postseason. And they can ship some of these guys out. But I will say the Mets have been a lot more fun to watch. Recently, JD Martinez is back on track after having a slow start. I mean, I know he's kind of exception to it because, he just literally just got on the team a month ago. But sucks to see with Edwin Diaz. I know he's appealing. I don't think it's gonna win. I think he's still gonna get suspended.
I don't think so.
But we'll see. It's been a nightmare. It's been a nightmare season for Edwin Diaz, and last night didn't help at all.
Totally agree. I do have one little final tidbit here on the Mets. This Met team reminds me a lot of last year's Angels team, and that is primarily because they have, obviously, I'm not comparing Pete Alonso to Shohei Ohtani here, okay? Pump the brakes. I'm not that crazy. But they both have a superstar who's going to be testing free agency. and they have a team that is hovering around that fine line mark where it's like, okay, do we sell off the pieces we can or do we go all in? Right? And in the Angels' case last season, they went all in and it bit them in the end. Yeah. Now you look at this Mets team. I feel like this Mets front office is a little bit smarter than what the Angels is. So I feel like they might be taking a more tactical kind of thinking to this of, okay, well, let's look at the pieces that we have. Let's look at what we need, and is it really worth it? Because Pete Alonso's season is not going great right now. His trade value, I'm not going to say it's at an all-time low, but it's not great. However, you'd rather get something for him than let him walk in free agency, like the Angels did with Ohtani. I will say I do think that the Mets could easily get a top 10 prospect for Alonso, if not top 5, very easily. So I think in the Mets case, they really need to take that into consideration because they do have some good pieces in the farm system. I like Brett Beatty if he can start to actually turn into a major league player. I like Mark Vientos. Vientos just hit a homer last night, and he's been consistently playing at like defense very well, and his bat is finally starting to come around. And they have those 2 stud prospects that they got last year in the Verlander deal and the Scherzer deal. So they are building something here, and they do have pieces to grow with. They have their leader in Lindor, who's going to be there, and then they have the role players such as Bader, Martinez, guys like that, who are going to consistently have a good at-bat no matter what. So I do think there's going to be some big question marks surrounding this Mets team. I really do. And I think it starts with Pete Alonso, without a doubt. I think this entire trade deadline is going to kind of revolve around Pete Alonso and what the Mets choose to do with him. But I also think that goes with their record too, because if they're hovering around that mark, I'm positive that they can't help but think like, okay, do we have something here? We can make some noise in October, because Kodai Senga will be back, and this pitching rotation will be back to form. It's just a matter of where they're going to be at the deadline, and how far out are they? That's kind of what I keep coming back to. But I do think it's going to surround Pete Alonso no matter what.
We shall see. We're going to go to our teams now.
Let's do it.
Dodgers. Since the last time we spoke, they took 3 out of 4 from Colorado in a crazy-ass game the second night. They split with the Angels. Didn't like that Friday. That really bugged me Friday night. Ohtani showed up. He was the only one that showed up on Friday. He had a 2-run home run to put us up 2-0. And then they quickly gave the lead away. And then the Angels won in extra innings. Very frustrating. And then Saturday night he finally got some help. And the Dodgers finally gave Glasnow some run support and they won 7-2. It has been 1 full week since Mookie Betts went down last Sunday. The Dodger offense has been a lot better since Mookie Betts went on the injured list. I hate to admit it. I really hate to admit it. Shohei Ohtani won Player of the Week in the National League. He was in the leadoff spot the whole week. It's not nothing. Freddie Freeman still in the 3-hole, but he's producing. You move Will Smith up. He's kind of picked it up a little bit. And the big thing for me, you're getting help from the bottom of the order. Chris Taylor had a good week. Teoscar Hernandez continues to hit well in the middle of the order. You're getting contributions from Jason Hayward, Miguel Vargas. He's kind of a liability in the outfield, but he can swing the bat too a little bit. And Andy Pages had a good series in Colorado. It's only 1 week worth of games. It's a very small sample size. But I have enjoyed Shohei Ohtani in the leadoff spot. And this is not taking anything away from Mookie Betts. But it was very frustrating the last pretty much 2 to 3 weeks of watching Mookie Betts go 0 for 5 every night. It's just not fun. Popping up to right field, grounding out to shortstop. Do we need him? Absolutely. If this team wants to go anywhere, they need him healthy, they need his defense, and they need his bat. But for 1 week, it's been pretty fun watching Shohei Ohtani in the leadoff spot and watch kind of this team come together a little bit. You know, that was a big blow because they won the game, but Mookie Betts got hurt in the process. And it was no fault of his own. He just, a 98-mile-an-hour fastball got in on him, and he didn't have enough time to react, and it hit his hand. I think the team kind of rallied around that a little bit. And I think there was a lot of people, especially a lot of Dodger fans, that were like, what are we going to do now? Mookie Betts is gone. I think there's some guys in there like, what about us? What about me? I can do it. So I would have been a lot more happy if they would have swept the Angels, a 2-game series against the Angels, and not split them, because Friday night was a very winnable game. But listen, man, you want to know how crazy and how bad this NL West is? I'll put it to you in proper perspective with this one thing. Dodgers didn't play yesterday. They had the day off. They gained a half a game on each team because they all lost yesterday. Diamondbacks lost, Giants lost, Padres lost, Rockies lost. Dodgers didn't even play yesterday. And they gained ground on all these teams. That's how bad the NL West has been this season. That's my Dodgers.
Yeah, so obviously I'll have a few thoughts on the Dodgers here. Obviously not as many as you, but number one, this is something that we touched on when we did the podcast regarding Mookie Betts and Yamamoto at the time. We had said that, you know, why not these young guys, right? Why not the role players? So that was one of our big things. You know, obviously Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts. There's no taking anything away from him. I'm not even going to try to say anything with that. But I'll ask you this, and then we'll move on. I'm going to ask you, when Mookie Betts does return, do you think he goes back to the leadoff spot if Ohtani continues this?
I think he does, because they tried, I think it was 2022 or 2021, one of the 2 years. It was when they had Trey Turner on the team. And they tried putting Mookie Betts, I think, in the 2-hole, if not the 3-hole. And they wanted Trey Turner leading off every day. Wasn't good. Mookie Betts was not the same player. They put Mookie back in the leadoff spot, thrived once again, and he was performing like an MVP caliber player. I don't think the Dodgers are going to toy with that again. Now, it's going to really make Dave Roberts' decision very complicated and very hard if Shohei Ohtani is going to continue to perform like this. He's hit 6 home runs in his last 8 games. It's not nothing. Obviously, you know, Shohei Ohtani's not going to play like this for the next 3 months. He's going to go through a dry spell like he has already a couple times this season. But it's going to make it very difficult if Ohtani's bigger sample size, if he hits better in the leadoff spot than in the 2 spot. But we'll see. But if I had to put money on it, I think Mookie Betts will be back in the leadoff spot when he comes back.
I would have to agree with you there. You know, Mookie obviously thrives in the leadoff spot. And he's like a prototypical leadoff guy.
Yep.
You know, he'll give you the contact, he'll give you the speed, but guess what? He can also pop one out if he wants to. It's just the kind of guy he is. It makes sense.
Now going to your Yankees.
Yeah. So, oh man, I was trying to hold that off for another minute. Yeah. Jeez. Obviously 3-7 in the last 10. Things aren't looking too great right now. Obviously, I'm not gonna put it totally on injuries because there's absolutely no excuse. But the Yankees just lost Giancarlo Stanton to the IL, who has actually performed very well this season. We lost Rizzo, which I will say I called that last week. Ben Rice got the call. I was very happy about that. I patted myself
As
on the
you
back
should.
for that one. But but obviously the Yankees are still okay. You know, we talked about Baltimore coming into town, and the Yankees were a game and a half up in the AL East. They've lost 3 consecutive series in that time, and they're still a game and a half up on the O's. So we haven't lost any ground, but yet again, we haven't gained any either. But I'm gonna not complain about that whatsoever because the way that the Yankees have been playing, they deserve to not have that top spot right now. So I'm not gonna complain about it one bit. Houston Astros, thank you very much. Kind of weird wording
What the
coming
hell
out
is
of my
this?
mouth there.
What world are we living in?
I know. I know. It's 2024 and a Yankee fan is saying thank you to the Houston Astros. Kind of crazy. But they just swept Baltimore, which really helped us out. We just lost 2 out of 3 to Atlanta. I'm not happy about that. And this is an Atlanta team where you gotta take advantage of what you can. They don't have Acuna. They don't have Strider. You know, take advantage of these teams that are kind of battling injuries right now. I will say this too, right? So my girlfriend and I have been taking in some Yankee baseball. She agreed to watch some Yankees with
bless her.
me, and the two games.
God bless
I know,
her.
seriously, the two games that she decided to watch with me, we've lost in big numbers too. I'm like, this isn't the Yankee team that I'm trying to, this is trying to showcase here. This is a little bullshit. But anyway,
You want to get superstitious with this? You
Back-
can't watch another game with you.
thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. They say third time's a charm here, so
They
we'll
also
see next
say
game.
3
But
strikes
after,
and you're out.
that is true. That is very, very true. But the Yankees are heading over to Queens tomorrow to take on the Mets, obviously, Subway Series. I'm excited for this. It's always a good time when the Yankees and Mets meet up, no matter where it's played. We'll see how it goes. I think this is a good chance for the Yankees to kind of get back on track, even though I was just hyping up the Mets a little bit.
There's also the chance for the Mets to make a
but
statement here.
It is. It really is. The Yankees are getting contributions where I'm used to it, right? So obviously Judge, he's doing his thing. Soto's doing his. But DJ LeMahieu has not been the same since 2019, to be honest with you. And the rest of this team is just not producing. And it's not really what you want at all. And it's not what you need. I mean, the most production we're getting out of the bottom of the order is from Trent Grisham, who plays maybe every other day, if he's lucky. You know, that's not a recipe to win. You know, and the Yankees just made a trade the other day for J.D. Davis. I'm not sure what that's going to do. I like the move, but it's just it doesn't wow me as much as I feel like it should. I feel like the Yankees need to make some sort of big thing here because I say it every single week. This is an all-in year. It has to be. You're not guaranteed Soto next year. You have to make a statement this year. And with the Houston Astros, their playoff chances up in the air, I feel like this is the year to do it. You have to. So obviously I want to see more moves out of this team. I want to see that trade deadline kind of approaching. I want to see some rumblings. I want to get the tweets saying that the Yankees are interested in this guy and that guy. And, of Ryan
I was
McMahon would
just
be
thinking
beautiful.
of that. I'm
But
not kidding. I was just thinking of that.
That's got to be my number one target. It's got to be. That he consistently is tearing things up for the Rockies. And yes, Coors, whatever, I don't care. But his lefty swing at Yankee Stadium, I feel like would fit perfectly. I say that every single year with some of these guys. But Joey Gallo, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, but Ryan McMahon's the kind of guy that I want on this team. We need another corner infielder who's going to give you production with the bat and as well play a good defense, and that's exactly what McMahon does. Davis isn't going to give you that.
Get him out of my division. He's a Dodger killer every time we play him. So I like that.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not happy, but yet again, I can't complain too much. I mean, this team is still first place in the AL East, a stacked AL East. I'm really glad that Baltimore kind of didn't take advantage of what they could have. So I think the Yankees need to just realize that, be like, listen, we're kind of playing terribly right now, but we can get back on track very, very quickly. I have no doubt in this team that they can do that. It's just right now, obviously, every team has these pains during the season, and the Yankees are going through it right now, and it sucks. But yet again, still a game and a half up on the O's. Gotta take care of business. Get back on track. We have Cole starting tomorrow, and then we have Luis Gil starting on Wednesday. So I feel like that's the perfect one to get this back on track. Go into Queens, make a statement, and come back out and keep going. That's all you really got to do.
It's also scary because this was around the same time last year when the Yankees they lost Judge and the season completely took a turn. I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but
Way to fuck my thinking up, Melo. Thank you.
I mean, it's kind of around the same time where kind of
It
took
is.
a deep
It
dive
is.
into the ground. I mean,
Yeah,
things are
a
different.
little bit.
You got Soto. Judge has been healthy. He's been good. I don't think that's going to happen again.
Well, we're not going to Dodger Stadium. We don't need to deal with that bullshit wall that
Hey,
you guys got out there in right field.
that's a historic landmark. That's it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it was, but
Well, it's fucking broke.
it was.
Yeah, honestly, that's about all I got on the Yankees. There's not too much. It's the same as last week. I'm really looking forward to the housekeeping part of things. I want to see what they do at the deadline. I want to see how Cole comes around, back from injury. And it's kind of just a waiting game at this point. Stanton's going to be out for 4 weeks. Rizzo probably 6 to 8. I'd like to see another minor leaguer get called up. Augustine Ramirez, he's a name that I'd like to see up. Maybe I can go for 2 for 2 upcoming next week. But we'll see. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to. The Yankees just need to get back on track and take care of business where they're supposed to. And this is a team. This is a team that can go toe to toe with any other team in the league. They've proven that all season long. I feel like they gotta get it back. That's what it comes down to.
I think that's gonna put a wrap on this episode. Very good
I believe
episode.
so. I like it.
I do too. I got nothing else unless you got anything else. I think we'll wrap it up.
I think that's about it. Obviously, some things to look forward to. We have Cooperstown coming very shortly.
It's coming
I
less
love
than a
that.
month now, which is crazy. Seems
Yeah,
like we just came back from it
it
last year.
is. I know. It's crazy how quick these things go. And Mello, you'll be back on the East Coast. I get to welcome you with
Yes.
open arms back to the best
Okay.
coast there
Let's
is.
not go that far. Let's
I was waiting for it.
let's not go that far. Hot ass weather over there. Feels like
Yeah.
somebody fucking
Yep.
one of my coworkers breathing down my neck, didn't brush their teeth in the morning. Hot ass air. Jesus.
Humidity.
Yeah. But no, looking forward to that and other things. So keep the lookout for that. Episode 82 in the books. We'll see you next week.